I laughed when my friend said, "My boyfriend and I are doing a role play." Yesterday, my boyfriend Thomas and I went to this group study session at the library with a few people from our organic chemistry class. My friend Olivia was there. She's had this painfully obvious crush on Thomas since freshman year, but he's completely oblivious to it. The entire 3-hour session, Thomas was being his usual, ridiculously sweet self. He showed up with my favorite iced vanilla latte from that expensive coffee place across campus. Even though he's constantly broke from buying art supplies, he kept absent-mindedly playing with my hair while I was highlighting notes. Every few minutes, he'd lean over and whisper these absolutely stupid little jokes in my ear about our professor's weird mannerisms that made me giggle like an idiot. Just completely normal boyfriend behavior. But Olivia kept shooting us these intense, almost angry looks every time Thomas would lean over my shoulder to help me understand some impossible chemical equation, or when he'd rest his hand on my thigh while explaining something. I figured she was just stressed about the midterm next week. During our break, Olivia grabbed my arm hard and practically dragged me into the bathroom down the hall. The second that door slams shut, she whips around and goes, "Okay, you can drop the ridiculous act now since it's just us." I was genuinely confused and asked what the hell she was talking about. Olivia crosses her arms, gets this smug expression, and says, "The whole elaborate fake dating charade you're putting on to make me jealous." Really mature move, honestly. I literally burst out laughing because that sounded completely insane. I told her that Thomas and I have been together for 8 months now, and even pulled up photos on my phone from our anniversary dinner last month. She rolled her eyes so dramatically and said, "Right, since exactly when? Because you never once mentioned having a boyfriend before this semester started." That's when everything suddenly clicked. Olivia and I had only reconnected at the beginning of the semester after completely losing touch since junior year of high school. We'd gone to different colleges, lived in different states, had totally separate lives for years. In her twisted perception, Thomas had just magically materialized in my life at the exact same moment we started hanging out again. She thought his pet names for me were carefully rehearsed lines from some script. His completely natural protectiveness seemed like an elaborate theatrical performance designed specifically for her benefit. Even our inside jokes looked completely fake to her because she had absolutely zero context for our actual relationship history. I spent 10 minutes trying to explain our entire timeline. How we met at freshman orientation, became study buddies, slowly became best friends. That awkward period where we both clearly liked each other but were too scared to say anything. Our first kiss after a party last winter. But she kept shaking her head like I was feeding her complete fabricated lies. She was 100% convinced that I had somehow hired my own actual boyfriend to pretend to be my boyfriend, just to psychologically torment her. The mental gymnastics required for that theory were honestly impressive. When we finally got back to the table, Thomas looked up with that concerned expression. "Everything okay? You both look weird." Olivia sat down without saying anything, but I could see her jaw clenching. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Thomas's roommate, Jake. "Dude, Olivia just posted in the group chat that you and Thomas are fake dating for some psychology experiment. She's asking people to report it to the dean. She says she has proof." My stomach dropped. I showed Thomas the message under the table. His eyes went wide, then he looked at Olivia, who was smiling at her phone. Before I could respond, 3 more texts came through from different people in our friend group, all asking if it was true. One message said the post already had 47 comments. My hands started shaking. This wasn't just bathroom drama anymore. She was trying to destroy our reputation across campus. And with her going to the dean, this could actually affect our academic standing. Thomas grabbed my hand. "We need to do something right now. Like, right this second." His phone started buzzing too. Then Olivia looked up at both of us with this triumphant expression and said loud enough for the whole table to hear, "When you're both called into the dean's office tomorrow, I hope your little performance was worth it." The entire study group went dead silent. 6 people staring at us with these confused faces. Thomas's hand tightened around mine and I could feel him shaking slightly. Madison, who sat across from us, set down her highlighter and asked, "Wait, what performance?" Olivia leaned back in her chair with her arms crossed. "These two have been pretending to date all semester just to mess with me. It's honestly pathetic." I opened my mouth, but Thomas spoke first. His voice came out steady, but I could hear the anger underneath. "That's completely insane. We've been together since January." He pulled out his phone and started scrolling. "Look, here's us at the winter formal. Here's her birthday in February. Here's spring break when we drove to her parents' house." He kept swiping, showing photo after photo. Our faces pressed together in his dorm room. Me wearing his hoodie at a basketball game. Him asleep on my lap during a movie night. Olivia barely glanced at the screen. Those could easily be staged. "People take fake couple photos all the time for social media." Her voice had this dismissive tone that made my blood boil. Jake, who was sitting next to her, leaned forward. "Olivia, I'm Thomas's roommate. I've seen them together literally hundreds of times. They're not faking anything." She turned to him with this pitying look. "That's exactly what they'd want you to think. They probably paid you to say that." Jake's mouth fell open. "Paid me? Are you hearing yourself right now?" The group chat kept blowing up my phone. I opened it and my heart sank further. Olivia had posted screenshots of our class schedule showing we had multiple classes together. She'd written this long explanation about how I'd clearly orchestrated running into Thomas repeatedly to build a fake relationship timeline. She claimed I'd studied his habits and preferences to make our interactions seem natural. Someone had commented asking why anyone would go through that much effort. Olivia had responded, "Because she's obsessed with making me jealous. We used to be close in high school and she never got over the fact that I was more popular." That last part made me actually laugh out loud. Everyone at the table looked at me. "Sorry, but in what universe were you more popular than me in high school? You transferred to our school junior year and ate lunch in the art room by yourself most days." Olivia's face went red. "That's a complete lie. I had tons of friends." I pulled up my phone and found my old Instagram. "Here's homecoming junior year. Here's the spring formal. Here's graduation. You're not in a single photo because we barely knew each other. We had like 2 classes together and sometimes said hi in the hallway. That's it." Thomas was reading the group chat over my shoulder. His jaw was clenched so tight I could see the muscle jumping. "She's telling people I failed organic chemistry last semester and you're tutoring me as part of the act. I got an A-. And you're taking the class for the first time." More notifications. Someone had tagged the dean's office official account. Another person posted a crying laughing emoji and wrote, "This is the most unhinged thing I've ever seen." But several people were asking serious questions, wanting to know if it was true. If we'd really been lying to everyone for months? Madison stood up suddenly. "Okay, I'm just going to say it. Olivia, I've known you for 2 years and you've mentioned having a crush on Thomas maybe 50 times. You talk about him constantly. Last week you spent 20 minutes analyzing a text he sent you that just said thanks for the notes. This whole thing sounds like you're jealous and making stuff up." Olivia's face went from red to almost purple. "I never said anything about a crush. You're making that up too. Everyone here is in on it." She gestured wildly around the table. "You're all helping them with their sick little game." Jake stood up too. "I'm out. This is actually crazy." He grabbed his backpack and looked at us. "Thomas, I'll see you back at the room. And for the record, I'm posting in that group chat exactly what I just said. You two are obviously together and Olivia needs to stop." He left. 2 other people from our study group packed up their stuff and followed him out. One girl I barely knew named Becca stopped next to me and whispered, "I believe you." That post made no sense. Then it was just me, Thomas, Olivia, Madison, and 2 guys who looked extremely uncomfortable. Thomas was typing on his phone. "I'm texting my RA. If she's really going to the dean with this, we need documentation of what actually happened." He looked at Olivia. "You need to delete that post and apologize. Right now. Because if this affects our academic standing or our reputations, I will talk to a lawyer about defamation." His voice was completely calm, but his hands were shaking. I'd never seen him this angry. Olivia laughed. "Go ahead. Sue me for telling the truth." "I have proof." Thomas set his phone down. "What proof? What possible evidence could you have of something that isn't happening?" She smiled and pulled out her laptop, opened it up and turned it toward us. On the screen was a document. I leaned forward to read it and my stomach turned. It was a timeline. Starting from the first day of the semester, she'd documented every single interaction she'd witnessed between me and Thomas. September 4th, Subject A and Subject B arrived at chemistry class together. Excessive physical contact, including hand-holding and whispering. September 11th, Subject A brought coffee for Subject B. Kissed in hallway outside lecture hall. Duration approximately 4 seconds. September 18th, observed subject studying in library. Subject B playing with Subject A's hair. Laughing at regular intervals. Behavior appears rehearsed. It went on for pages. She'd been watching us like we were lab rats. Taking notes on when we held hands. How long we hugged. What we talked about. Every smile. Every touch. Every kiss. She'd written observations about our body language. Noted when Thomas opened doors for me or carried my backpack. Documented the pet names he used. She'd built this entire case file trying to prove our relationship was fake, and it was the creepiest thing I'd ever seen. Madison was reading over my shoulder. "Holy shit, Olivia. This is stalking. You know that, right?" Olivia snapped the laptop shut. "It's evidence. And when I show this to the dean tomorrow, along with testimony from other students, they'll launch an investigation. Fake relationships violate the student code of conduct under fraudulent behavior." Thomas was staring at her. "What are you actually trying to accomplish here? Let's say hypothetically you convince people we're faking. Then what, you think I'm suddenly going to want to date you?" The words hung in the air. Olivia's face went pale. "I never said I wanted to date you. This isn't about that." Thomas shook his head. "Yes, it is. That's exactly what this is about. You've had a crush on me since we met freshman year. I've never been interested. I'm with someone I love. And instead of accepting that, you've created this insane conspiracy theory where the only explanation for me not wanting you is that my entire relationship is fake." She stood up so fast her chair fell over backward. "You're so full of yourself. Not every girl wants you, Thomas. I'm trying to protect people from being manipulated by these two con artists. Her voice was getting louder. A librarian looked over and put a finger to her lips. Olivia grabbed her stuff. Fine, don't delete the post. Don't apologize. See what happens when the dean starts asking questions. See what happens when your friends realize you've been lying to them for months. See what happens when this gets back to your professors and they start wondering what else you're lying about. She left. The crash bar on the library door slammed behind her. The two guys who'd stayed muttered something about needing to finish homework and practically ran away from our table. Madison sat back down. That was absolutely unhinged. Are you guys okay? I realized I was crying. Not dramatic sobbing, just tears running down my face that I couldn't stop. Thomas put his arm around me. We need to get ahead of this. Like right now, tonight. We packed up and went straight to his dorm. Jake was already there, and he'd posted a long message in the group chat explaining that he'd lived with Thomas for over a year, had seen our relationship develop naturally, and that Olivia's claims were completely false. Several other people had commented supporting us, but there were still plenty of question marks. People asking how we could prove we were really together. Someone suggested we take a lie detector test. Another person said they'd always thought our relationship seemed too perfect to be real. Thomas's hands were shaking as he scrolled through the messages. This is going to follow us around campus. Every time we hold hands or kiss or even just sit together, people are going to be watching, analyzing, trying to figure out if it's real. I wiped my face. We need to talk to the dean first thing tomorrow morning, before Olivia does. We need to show them the screenshots of her post and explain what actually happened. Jake was nodding. I'll come with you as a witness. I can confirm everything. But my mind was racing ahead. What if they do launch an investigation? What if they start interviewing people and asking questions? This could take weeks. It could affect our classes, our scholarships, everything. Thomas pulled me closer. Then we deal with it. We tell the truth and we deal with whatever happens. His voice was steady, but I could feel his heart pounding against my shoulder. My phone buzzed. A text from my roommate, Qley. Are you seeing this? Someone just posted that you and Thomas might get expelled for running a fake relationship scheme. Is that even a thing? I showed Thomas. He closed his eyes. This is spreading faster than we can control it. Another text. This one from my lab partner. Hey, awkward question, but people are saying you hired Thomas to pretend to be your boyfriend. Obviously that sounds crazy, but I wanted to ask directly. Then another. And another. My phone didn't stop buzzing for 20 minutes straight. Thomas's phone was the same. Friends asking questions. His art class group chat wondering what was happening. Someone from his intramural soccer team saying they'd always thought I seemed too good to be true and now it made sense. That one made Thomas actually throw his phone on the bed. Too good to be true? What does that even mean? Jake picked up the phone. People are idiots. They're eating this up because it's dramatic. Give it a few days and they'll forget about it. But I knew that wasn't true. This wasn't going away in a few days. I opened my laptop and started writing. Thomas looked over. What are you doing? I kept typing. Making a timeline of our actual relationship with proof. Photos, text messages, receipts, witnesses, everything. If Olivia's going to the dean with her creepy stalker documentation, we're going with the truth and evidence to back it up. Thomas sat down next to me. Okay, start from the beginning. We worked for 3 hours. I pulled up every photo from the past 8 months. Screenshots of texts starting from when we first exchanged numbers in September of freshman year. Receipts from dates. Movie tickets I'd saved. A birthday card he'd made me. I messaged 10 different friends asking them to write statements about our relationship. Most responded within minutes saying they'd be happy to help. Madison sent a whole paragraph about how obvious it was that we were in love and how Olivia's behavior had always been concerning. By midnight, we had a 15-page document. Our relationship history with evidence for every major event. Character statements from friends. Jake's testimony as Thomas's roommate. Screenshots of Olivia's posts with notes about why each claim was false. A list of people who could verify we'd been together since January. Thomas printed 3 copies. First thing tomorrow, 8 a.m., we're waiting outside the dean's office when it opens. I nodded. My eyes were burning from staring at the screen, but I felt slightly less panicked. We had proof. We had truth on our side. Thomas walked me back to my dorm. It was past midnight and campus was quiet. We stopped outside my building and he pulled me into a hug. I'm sorry this is happening. I'm sorry she's doing this to you. I pressed my face against his chest. It's not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. He kissed the top of my head. I know, but I still hate that you're going through this. We stood there for a while just holding each other. A group of students walked past and one of them definitely took a photo. Thomas noticed. Let them. At this point, it doesn't matter. I went upstairs. Qley was still awake. She looked up from her laptop. So, want to talk about it? I sat on my bed and told her everything. The bathroom confrontation. The group chat post. The timeline document Olivia had made. The plan to go to the dean in the morning. Qley listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a minute. Then she said, "That girl needs serious help. Like therapy. Maybe medication. I laughed even though nothing was funny. Yeah, probably. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Olivia's face in the bathroom. That smug expression. The absolute certainty in her voice when she accused me of hiring my own boyfriend. The way she'd documented our relationship like we were subjects in an experiment. I checked my phone. The group chat was still active. Someone had posted a poll asking people to vote on whether they thought our relationship was real or fake. Real was winning, but only by a small margin. 53% to 47%. I turned my phone face down and stared at the ceiling. At 7 a.m., my alarm went off. I'd maybe slept 2 hours total. I got dressed in actual nice clothes instead of my usual hoodie and leggings. If we were meeting with the dean, I needed to look put together. Professional. Like someone who was taking this seriously. Thomas texted at 7:30. Leaving now. Meet you there. I grabbed the folder with our printed evidence and headed out. The administration building was almost empty when I got there. Thomas was already waiting on a bench outside the dean's office. He looked as tired as I felt. Dark circles under his eyes, his hair messy like he'd been running his hands through it. He stood up when he saw me and we just looked at each other for a second. Then he pulled me into a hug. Whatever happens, we're okay. We know the truth. I nodded against his shoulder. The dean's secretary arrived at 7:55. She unlocked the office and looked surprised to see us. Do you have an appointment? Thomas shook his head. No, but we need to speak with Dean Kaplan as soon as possible. It's urgent, she looked uncertain. He usually doesn't see students without an appointment. What is this regarding? I spoke up. A student is making false accusations about us to faculty and spreading defamatory statements on social media. We need to address it before it escalates further. My voice came out more confident than I felt. The secretary's expression changed. I see. Let me check if he's available. She went inside. We waited. My hands were sweating. Thomas kept shifting his weight from foot to foot. 5 minutes later, the secretary came back. Dean Kaplan can see you now. We followed her into a large office. The dean was maybe 50 with gray hair and reading glasses. He gestured to the chairs across from his desk. Please sit. My secretary said this involves accusations between students. Thomas and I sat down. I set our folder on the desk. Yes, sir. Another student, Olivia Parrish, has been spreading false information claiming that our relationship is fake and that we're perpetrating some kind of fraud. She's posted about it in multiple group chats, tagged the official dean's office account, and threatened to file a formal complaint. We wanted to address this directly before the situation gets worse. Dean Kaplan leaned back in his chair. I see. And your names are? We introduced ourselves. He wrote them down. Okay, start from the beginning. Tell me exactly what happened. So we did. I explained how Olivia and I had reconnected this semester after years of not talking, how she'd apparently developed feelings for Thomas and convinced herself our relationship was fake, the bathroom confrontation, the group chat post, the timeline document she'd created documenting our interactions. Thomas showed him screenshots on his phone. The dean's expression grew more serious as we talked. When we finished, I handed him our folder. We put together documentation of our actual relationship. Photos, messages, receipts, witness statements, everything that proves we've been together since January. Dean Kaplan opened the folder and started reading. He took his time, going through each page carefully. The clock on the wall ticked. I tried not to fidget. After maybe 10 minutes, he closed the folder. This is quite thorough. And these witness statements are from other students? Thomas nodded. Yes, sir. Friends who've known us throughout our relationship. People who can verify what we're saying is true. The dean took off his glasses and rubbed his eyes. Let me be very clear. The university does not have any policy against students dating. There is no rule being broken by two people being in a relationship. Even if your relationship were somehow fake, which based on this evidence it clearly is not, that still would not violate any university policy, unless it involved fraud for financial gain or academic advantage. Do you understand what I'm saying? I felt some of the tension leave my shoulders. So we're not in trouble? He shook his head. No, you're not in trouble. You haven't done anything wrong. Thomas leaned forward. But what about Olivia? She's spreading this all over campus. People are questioning whether we're really together. She's damaging our reputation with false accusations. Dean Kaplan put his glasses back on. That's more complicated. I can't discuss disciplinary actions with you. But I can tell you that if a student is engaging in harassment or spreading knowingly false information about other students, that is taken very seriously. I'll need to speak with Ms. Parrish. I pulled out my phone. She also created this document where she tracked our movements and interactions for months. I have screenshots. I showed him. He looked at the images and his jaw tightened. Please send those to my email address. I'll need copies for the file. I sent them while we sat there. He nodded when they came through. Thank you. Is there anything else I should know? Thomas hesitated. She said she was coming to see you today, to file some kind of formal complaint against us. Dean Kaplan made a note. If she does, I'll address it. But based on what you've shown me, I don't anticipate any investigation into your relationship. You've provided ample evidence that her claims are unfounded. He stood up. We did too. I appreciate you coming to me directly with this. Too many students let situations like this spiral out of control on social media before involving the administration. You did the right thing. We thanked him and left. Outside in the hallway, Thomas grabbed my hand. That went better than I expected. I nodded, but my stomach was still in knots. What happens now? We walked to the student center. It was 8:30 and classes hadn't started yet, so it wasn't crowded. We got coffee and sat in a corner booth. Thomas's phone buzzed. Jake, how did it go? Thomas typed back that we'd met with the dean and everything was fine. Jake sent back a thumbs up and told you. But I was thinking about what came next. The dean can't make people stop talking about this. Even if Olivia gets in trouble, the rumors are already out there. Thomas wrapped his hands around his coffee cup. So we just keep living our lives. We go to class, we study. We're together. Eventually, people will see that none of what she said was true. It sounded simple, but I knew it wouldn't be. At 9:15, we had organic chemistry. The class where this all started? I didn't want to go. What if she's there? Thomas stood up. Then she's there. We can't hide from her. That just makes us look guilty. We walked across campus to the science building. My heart was pounding the whole way. The lecture hall was already half full when we got there. I scanned the seats. Olivia wasn't there yet. We sat in our usual spot near the front. Madison was already there and she waved. How are you guys doing? I gave her a weak smile. We talked to the dean this morning. He said we're not in any trouble. She looked relieved. That's good. People are still talking, but I think most of them realize Olivia's story doesn't make sense. More students filed in. I felt eyes on us. People whispering. A girl I'd never spoken to took a photo of Thomas and me sitting together. He noticed and his jaw clenched, but he didn't say anything. Professor Hendricks walked in and started setting up his laptop. 9:30. Class was supposed to start. Still no Olivia. Maybe she wasn't coming. Then at 9:32, the door opened. Olivia walked in. She saw us immediately. Her face went pale. She stopped in the doorway. The entire class went quiet. Everyone was looking back and forth between her and us. You could feel the tension. Professor Hendricks looked up. Ms. Parrish, please take a seat. We're about to begin. Olivia didn't move for a second. Then she walked stiffly to a seat in the very back row, as far from us as she could get. The professor started his lecture on reaction mechanisms. I tried to focus, tried to take notes, but I could feel Olivia staring at the back of my head. Halfway through class, my phone vibrated. A text from a number I didn't recognize. You're not going to get away with this. I showed Thomas. He tensed. Another text. Everyone knows you're a liar. Then another. Thomas deserves better than a manipulative fake. Thomas grabbed my phone and turned it off. Don't read them. Just focus on the lecture. But my hands were shaking. Class ended at 10:45. Everyone packed up. As we walked toward the door, Olivia was waiting in the hallway. She stepped in front of us. I know what you did. You got to the dean first and told him your version. But I have proof. I have documentation. Her voice was shaking. Thomas tried to step around her. Move, Olivia. She didn't. You're going to regret this. Both of you, Madison appeared next to us. Olivia, leave them alone. You're making yourself look worse. Olivia's eyes were wild. I'm not the one making anything up. They are. And when everyone finds out the truth, they'll all see. Professor Hendricks came out of the classroom. Is there a problem here? Olivia looked at him. For a second, I thought she might say something. Complain about us. Make a scene. But then she just turned and walked away quickly. Professor Hendricks looked at us with concern. Are you three all right? Madison nodded. We're fine. Just some personal drama. He didn't look convinced, but he didn't push. Okay, well, if you need anything, my office hours are Tuesdays and Thursdays. We went to the library. None of us had class for another hour. Madison bought us all coffee from the campus cafe. We sat at a table in the quiet section. Thomas turned my phone back on. 23 messages from unknown numbers, all variations of the same thing. Calling me a liar, saying I was manipulative, that I was using Thomas, that our relationship was fake. Some were crueler. One said I was pathetic. Another said I should be expelled. Madison looked at the messages and her face went pale. This is harassment. You need to report this. But I was thinking about something else. These are all from numbers I don't recognize. How did they even get my number? Thomas was scrolling through them. Someone must have posted it, maybe in one of those group chats. He opened his phone and checked. His face went dark. Yeah, Olivia posted your number in 3 different group chats with a message saying people should text you to demand the truth. Madison grabbed the phone. Are you kidding me? That's doxing. That's definitely against university policy. I felt sick. My personal phone number, out there for hundreds of students to see. To text me, to harass me. Thomas was already typing an email. I'm forwarding all of this to Dean Kaplan right now. This crosses a line. He attached screenshots and sent it. I turned off my phone completely. I couldn't deal with more messages. The 3 of us sat there in silence. Madison finally spoke. This is going to get worse before it gets better, isn't it? I nodded. Yeah, I think it is. The rest of the day was a blur. More stares. More whispers. In my literature class, the professor mentioned something about truth versus perception, and I swear half the class looked at me. Thomas walked me everywhere between classes. We didn't hold hands. Didn't touch. We were both hyper-aware of people watching, analyzing, looking for proof that we were faking. It made everything feel forced and unnatural. By dinner time, I was exhausted. We met Jake at the dining hall. He'd heard about Olivia posting my number. That's seriously messed up. Is the dean doing anything? Thomas shrugged. We sent him everything. I don't know what happens next. We got food and found a table in the corner. But I couldn't eat. My stomach was in knots. Every time someone walked past our table, I tensed, waiting for a comment, an accusation. Jake tried to make conversation about his history class, but it felt forced. Finally, Thomas put down his fork. We should just go back to the dorm. I can't sit here pretending everything's normal. We threw away our barely touched food and left. Back in Thomas's room, I finally let myself break down. All the stress and anger and fear from the past 24 hours came out. Thomas held me while I cried. Jake quietly left to give us privacy. When I finally stopped, my head was pounding and my eyes were swollen. Thomas got me water and aspirin. We're going to get through this. I promise. I wanted to believe him. But I kept thinking about those text messages, the poll in the group chat, the way people looked at us. Even if the dean punished Olivia, even if she admitted she was wrong, the damage was done. There would always be people who believed her, who thought our relationship was fake, who saw us and wondered my phone was still off. Thomas's kept buzzing periodically. He glanced at it and winced. Dean Kaplan emailed back. He wants to meet with Olivia tomorrow morning. He's also recommended we file a formal harassment complaint against her for posting your number and for the continued messages. I sat up. What does that mean? What happens if we file a complaint? Thomas read further. It would start an official disciplinary process. She could face sanctions ranging from a warning to suspension or expulsion depending on the severity. But it also means this whole thing becomes even more official, more documented. More people involved. I thought about it. Part of me wanted her punished, wanted consequences for what she'd done, but another part just wanted it to be over. What do you think we should do? Thomas was quiet for a minute. I think we file it. Because if we don't, she's going to keep doing this. She's going to keep harassing you and spreading lies and making our lives hell. At least if there's an official complaint, there's a record. There are rules she has to follow or face real consequences. So we did. Thomas drafted the complaint email right there, listed every incident, every false accusation, every harassing message, attached all the screenshots and evidence. We sent it to Dean Kaplan at 8:30 p.m. He responded within 20 minutes saying he'd received it and would add it to the file. That was it. We'd done everything we could. Now we just had to wait. I stayed in Thomas's dorm that night. Jake didn't come back until late, and when he did, he just gave us a sympathetic look and went straight to bed. Thomas and I lay in his narrow twin bed, pressed close together. Neither of us could sleep. Around midnight, he whispered, "I love you." You know that, right? No matter what anyone says or thinks, that's real. I kissed him. I love you too. The next morning, I woke up to my phone buzzing. I'd turned it back on at some point during the night. 15 new messages, but these weren't harassment. These were from friends. People I actually knew. Madison. Olivia got called to the dean's office this morning. Someone saw her going in looking terrified. Becca from the study group. Just heard from someone in student conduct that Olivia might be facing suspension. Is that because of what she did to you guys? My roommate, Kelsey. Everyone's talking about how Olivia made everything up and she's in serious trouble. Are you okay? Thomas's phone was going off too. Jake sat up in his bed. Dude, the group chat is blowing up. Olivia apparently had a complete meltdown in the dean's office. Started crying and saying she was just trying to help people see the truth. Thomas and I looked at each other. We got dressed and headed to the student center for breakfast. The energy on campus felt different. People were still staring, but it wasn't the same suspicious looks. It was more like curiosity, like they were trying to figure out what had really happened. We got coffee and bagels and found our usual table. Madison showed up 10 minutes later. She looked excited. Okay, so I heard from someone who works in the admin building that Dean Kaplan tore into Olivia yesterday afternoon. Told her that posting your phone number violated privacy policies and that her behavior constituted harassment. She tried to defend herself by showing him her timeline document, and he apparently told her that documenting someone's movements without their knowledge was stalking. I felt a weird mix of relief and vindication. Did she admit she was wrong? Madison shook her head. From what I heard, no. She kept insisting that you two were faking and that she had proof, even when he told her that he'd already investigated and found her claims to be completely false. Thomas leaned back. So she's still denying reality. Madison nodded. Completely. But here's the thing. The dean apparently told her parents. They drove up here last night. Someone saw them having a huge argument in the parking lot. Olivia was screaming that everyone was ganging up on her and her mom was crying. I almost felt bad. Almost. But then I remembered the hundreds of harassing texts. The poll asking if our relationship was fake. The way she'd looked at me in the bathroom with that smug expression. My sympathy evaporated. Classes started. In organic chemistry, Olivia's seat in the back was empty. She didn't show up. She wasn't in the hallway after. At lunch, Jake told us he'd heard she'd been suspended for 2 weeks pending a full investigation. My RA told me, apparently it's pretty serious. The university takes harassment really seriously, especially when it involves doxing someone's phone number. Thomas looked relieved. 2 weeks without having to see her, without worrying about what she'd do next. But I knew it wasn't really over. What happens after 2 weeks? Jake shrugged. I don't know. I guess it depends on what the investigation finds. The rest of the week was surreal. The group chats that had been full of speculation about our relationship were now full of people discussing Olivia's suspension. Opinions were split. Some people thought she deserved it. Others thought it was too harsh. A few still insisted she must have been onto something and the administration was covering it up. But the majority seemed to realize she'd been wrong. That we really were together and she'd created this whole conspiracy theory out of jealousy. People started apologizing. Random students I barely knew would stop me in the library or the dining hall. Hey, I'm sorry I believed those posts. I should have known better. Or, I feel bad for voting that your relationship might be fake. Obviously, you guys are real. Thomas handled it better than I did. He just nodded and said thanks and moved on. But each apology felt like a reminder that people had doubted us, had believed we were lying, had thought we'd orchestrate something so elaborate and cruel. By Friday, I was exhausted. We skipped the evening study group. Instead, we went to Thomas's favorite spot on campus, this little garden behind the art building. We sat on a bench and watched the sunset. Do you think things will ever go back to normal? I asked. Thomas put his arm around me. I don't know. Maybe this is our new normal. At least for a while. That weekend, my parents called. Someone from their hometown had seen the drama on social media and mentioned it to them. My mom was worried. Are you okay? Is this boy treating you well? Do we need to come up there? I assured her I was fine. Explained the whole situation. She was quiet for a minute. Then she said, that girl sounds disturbed. I'm glad the school is taking it seriously. My dad got on the phone. If anyone gives you trouble, you let us know. We'll drive up there. I smiled. Thanks, Dad, but I think it's handled. Monday morning, Olivia still wasn't in class. Professor Hendricks made an announcement. I'm aware there's been some personal conflict between students in this class. I want to make it clear that my classroom is a place for learning, not drama. Whatever is happening outside these walls stays outside. Is that understood? Everyone nodded, but the tension was still there. You could feel it. On Wednesday, Olivia came back. She walked into class 2 minutes late, head down, and went straight to her seat in the back. She didn't look at anyone, didn't participate, just sat there taking notes like nothing had happened. After class, she left immediately. Didn't wait around, didn't try to talk to us. Madison said she'd heard that part of Olivia's suspension terms included mandatory counseling and a no-contact order. She wasn't allowed to approach us or talk about us to other students. If she violated it, she'd face expulsion. That made me feel slightly better. At least there were rules now, boundaries, consequences. The group chats gradually moved on to other topics. Midterms were coming up. Halloween plans, regular college student stuff. Our relationship stopped being the main source of gossip, but things weren't the same. Thomas and I were more careful now, more aware of how we acted in public. We didn't kiss in the hallways, didn't hold hands in class. It wasn't that we were ashamed. It was more like we were protecting ourselves, trying not to give anyone ammunition, trying not to stand out. One night I told Thomas this and he got upset. That's not fair. We shouldn't have to change how we act because of what she did. He was right, but I couldn't help it. The whole experience had made me self-conscious in a way I'd never been before. October turned into November. Midterms came and went. Thomas and I studied together like always. Our group welcomed us back without weirdness. Madison became one of my closest friends. She never brought up the Olivia situation unless I wanted to talk about it. Jake made jokes about the whole thing to lighten the mood. Remember that time everyone thought you guys were paid actors? Wild. Thomas would laugh, but I could tell it still bothered him. He hated that people had questioned our relationship, had doubted something that was so real to him. Olivia kept her distance. She came to class, sat in the back, and left. She stopped posting in the group chats, stopped sitting with our friend group at the library. Someone said they'd seen her eating lunch alone in her car. Part of me felt bad. She'd isolated herself so completely. But then I'd remember the harassment, the texts, the poll, the timeline document, and the sympathy would fade. She'd done this to herself. On Halloween weekend, Thomas and I went to a party. We dressed up as characters from a show we both loved. It felt normal, fun, like college was supposed to be. People took photos with us. Someone posted them online with a caption about how cute we were. No one questioned whether we were really together. No one analyzed our body language. We were just another couple at a college party. Around midnight, we left and walked back to campus. It was cold and Thomas gave me his jacket. We stopped under a streetlight and he kissed me. Long and slow and real. When we pulled apart, he was smiling. "I think we're going to be okay." I believed him. The next week, my phone buzzed during lunch. An email from Dean Kaplan. He wanted to meet with us, both of us. Tomorrow at 2 p.m. My stomach dropped. Thomas read the email over my shoulder. "What do you think this is about?" I shook my head. "I don't know. Maybe an update on the investigation?" We showed up the next day nervous. Dean Kaplan's secretary led us into his office. He smiled when we entered. "Thank you for coming. Please sit," we sat. He folded his hands on his desk. "I wanted to update you on the situation with Ms. Parrish. The investigation is complete. She's been found responsible for harassment and violation of privacy policies. She's been placed on disciplinary probation for the remainder of the semester. Additionally, she's required to complete a behavioral intervention program and continue counseling. The no-contact order remains in effect. If she violates any of these terms, she will face immediate suspension or expulsion." I felt relief wash over me. Thomas asked, "What does disciplinary probation mean exactly?" Dean Kaplan explained that it was a formal warning on her record. If she had any other conduct issues, the consequences would be severe. It also meant she couldn't participate in certain campus activities or hold leadership positions. "I want you both to know that the university takes these matters very seriously. What Ms. Parrish did was completely unacceptable. I'm sorry you had to go through this." We thanked him and left. Outside the building, Thomas stopped and looked at me. "It's really over." "Like actually over." I nodded. "Yeah, I think it is. But there was still one more thing." The following Monday, Olivia approached me after chemistry class. I tensed immediately. Thomas stepped closer. But Olivia held up her hands. "I'm not here to cause problems. I just wanted to say something." She looked different, tired. Her hair was pulled back messy and she had dark circles under her eyes. I wanted to apologize for everything. "I know you probably don't want to hear it, and I know I don't deserve forgiveness. But I need to say it anyway. I was wrong. About all of it. I convinced myself of something that wasn't true and I hurt you both in the process. I'm sorry." She didn't wait for a response, just turned and walked away. Thomas and I stood there for a second. Madison came up behind us. "Did that just happen?" I nodded slowly. "Yeah, I think it did." Thomas put his arm around me. "Do you believe her?" I watched Olivia disappear around the corner. "I don't know, maybe, but it doesn't really matter. The damage is already done." And it was. Even with her apology. Even with the dean's decision. Even with people moving on. Something had changed. We'd been through something that most couples never have to deal with. Had our relationship questioned and analyzed and doubted by hundreds of people. It had made us stronger in some ways. We trusted each other more. Communicated better. Didn't take things for granted, but it had also left scars. I was more guarded now. More careful about who I let into my life. Thomas was more protective. More aware of people's intentions. We'd learned that sometimes people create their own reality, and no amount of evidence or truth can change their minds. That jealousy can make people do crazy things. That being the target of someone's obsession is terrifying and exhausting. The semester continued. We did well on our organic chemistry final. Made plans for winter break. Talked about moving in together next year. Life went on. But every once in a while, I'd see Olivia across campus. She'd look away quickly. And I'd remember everything that happened. The bathroom confrontation. The group chat posts. The harassment. The investigation. All of it. Thomas and I made it through. Our relationship survived something that could have torn us apart. And in a weird way, I was grateful. Not for what happened, but for what it showed us. That we were solid. That we could handle pressure. That no amount of outside noise could break what we had. Because at the end of the day, we knew the truth. And that was all that really mattered. On the last day of the semester, Thomas gave me a gift. A small leather journal. Inside the front cover, he'd written, "For all the real moments. The ones no one can question or take away. I love you." I kissed him right there in the middle of the hallway. Let people watch. Let them think whatever they wanted. This was real. We were real. And nothing anyone said could change that. Finals ended. We both went home for winter break. 3 weeks apart felt like forever. We texted constantly. FaceTimed every night. Made plans for when we got back. My mom asked how things were going with Thomas. I told her great. She smiled. "I can tell. You're happy." And I was. Despite everything that had happened, despite the drama and stress and harassment, I was genuinely happy. Because I had someone who loved me, who stood by me, who fought for us when things got hard. That was worth more than anything. When we got back to campus in January, it was like starting fresh. New semester, new classes, new energy. Olivia had transferred to a different university. I heard through the grapevine that she'd decided she needed a fresh start. Part of me hoped she was getting help, that she was working through whatever issues had led her to create that whole elaborate conspiracy. But mostly I just felt relieved that she was gone, that we wouldn't have to see her in class anymore, wouldn't have to worry about running into her on campus. Thomas and I registered for Chemistry 2 together. We studied together, went on dates, hung out with friends, just lived our normal college lives. The whole incident with Olivia became something we rarely talked about. A weird, stressful chapter that was over, but it changed us. Made us more aware, more careful, more appreciative of what we had. And sometimes when we were alone, Thomas would look at me with this expression. This mixture of love and protectiveness and determination. And I knew he was thinking about it too. About how someone had tried to tear us apart and failed. About how we'd fought for each other and won. About how our relationship was real and solid and unbreakable. One night in February, we were lying in his dorm room. Jake was at a party and we had the place to ourselves. Thomas turned to me. "You know what I think about sometimes?" I shook my head. "How lucky I am. That you're mine. That we made it through all that insanity. That we're still here." I kissed him. "We're always going to be here. Nothing's going to change that." He smiled. "Promise?" I promised. And I meant it. Because what we had was worth fighting for. Worth protecting. Worth everything. The next few months passed in a blur of classes and studying and normal college relationship stuff. We had our first real fight about something stupid. Thomas forgot to tell me his mom was coming to visit and I'd made plans. We argued, said things we didn't mean, then apologized and talked it through. It felt weirdly healthy, like we were a normal couple with normal problems. Not two people whose relationship had been publicly questioned and investigated. We celebrated our 1-year anniversary in March. Thomas took me to the nice restaurant off campus, gave me a bracelet with both our initials engraved inside, told me he loved me about 50 times. It was perfect, simple, real, everything a relationship should be. By the end of sophomore year, we'd moved past everything. The Olivia situation became an inside joke. "Remember when everyone thought we were actors?" Thomas would say. We'd laugh, because it was so absurd, so ridiculous, but it had happened, and we'd survived it. Looking back now, I'm grateful it happened when it did. Early in our relationship when we were still figuring things out, because it forced us to be solid, to communicate, to trust each other completely. It made us stronger, made us better, made us us. Junior year came. We moved into an apartment together off campus. Thomas's art covered the walls. My textbooks took over the coffee table. We adopted a cat. Named him Hendrix after our chemistry professor. It was domestic and comfortable and everything I'd ever wanted. And every time I looked at Thomas, I remembered that this was real. That we were real. That nothing anyone said or did could change that. The whole experience taught me something important. That love isn't just the happy moments. It's not just the dates and the gifts and the cute Instagram photos. Real love is standing together when someone tries to tear you apart. It's defending each other, fighting for each other, believing in each other even when the whole world seems to doubt you. Thomas and I had that. We'd proven it, and I knew without any doubt that we'd make it. Through college, through whatever came next, through everything, because we were real, and that was never going to change.